The call came through at 11:47 p.m. on a Thursday night while I was 3 levels underground at the Pentagon, shoulder deep in classified server racks, trying to stop a coordinated cyber attack that was costing our national defense systems $32,000 per hour. My secure phone buzzed against my hip. I ignored it. Then it buzzed again. I pulled off my work gloves and checked the encrypted display. Andrew Phillips, my direct supervisor at Apex Security Systems, calling from his Bethesda townhouse at what should be dinner time with his yoga instructor girlfriend. The same Andrew Phillips who'd spent the last 6 months talking about modernizing our workforce and eliminating what he called legacy deadweight in team meetings. I almost didn't answer. When you're managing a security breach that's compromising military communications across 3 time zones, phone calls from corporate feel less urgent than the blinking threat indicators in front of you. But I answered anyway, because that's what 22 years of being a reliable crisis manager conditions you to do. Coleman speaking. Russell, it's Andrew. I need to inform you of a company decision. Effective immediately, we no longer require your services as Senior Defense Security Architect. Your employment is terminated as of today. I looked at the threat console in front of me. Alert code red active still flashing across multiple screens. Database intrusion attempts showing 1,247 failed authentication probes in the last 8 minutes. 3 separate military communication networks, completely isolated due to our emergency lockdown protocols. Jennifer Stevens, Pentagon Operations Coordinator, standing 10 feet away, looking at me with the kind of desperate hope you see when someone realizes their entire mission depends on one person who actually understands these 20-year-old legacy defense systems. I understand, I said, keeping my voice level. I'll inform Jennifer that Apex Security will be handling the breach response procedures for the crisis I'm currently managing. Silence long enough that I thought the secure connection might have dropped. What crisis? Here's what you need to understand about Andrew Phillips. He's 31 years old with an MBA from Georgetown, promoted to senior management after 18 months with the company because his father sits on Apex Security's board of directors. He drives a leased BMW, lives in a townhouse his parents helped him buy, and recently went through a messy divorce that cost him half his assets. His solution was dating a 24-year-old yoga instructor and making dramatic cost-cutting decisions to impress the board with his financial acumen. I was apparently one of those cost-cutting decisions. The coordinated cyber attack that brought me to the Pentagon at 4 p.m. yesterday. 3 military networks are in full lockdown. The breach is costing approximately $32,000 per hour in communications downtime and operational delays. I'm in the middle of tracing the intrusion through 20-year-old Java protocols that predate most of your current staff. I assume you'll want to send someone else to complete the trace work since I no longer work for Apex Security. More silence. I could hear him breathing through the encrypted line, probably realizing that he'd just fired the company's most experienced crisis manager in the middle of their most expensive emergency. Russell, let's discuss this after you've resolved the Pentagon situation. I don't think that's appropriate. You just terminated my employment. I shouldn't be working on Apex Security projects if I'm no longer an Apex Security employee. I'll brief Jennifer on what I've discovered so far and catch the next shuttle back to Virginia. Or actually, not back to the office since you said not to bother returning. Wait, Russell, let me call you back. He ended the call before I could respond. My name is Russell Coleman. I'm 49 years old, and I just got fired while managing a cybersecurity crisis that nobody else at my company knows how to solve. At this point in my life, I thought I'd built enough reputation and expertise to coast into my later working years with respect and security. That phone call changed everything. And maybe it was time. Tyler's tuition bill was sitting on my kitchen table back in Falls Church. $24,800 due in 6 weeks for his junior year at Virginia Tech, where he's studying cybersecurity like his old man. My late wife, Catherine, had made me promise before she died that Tyler would graduate debt-free, that our son wouldn't start his adult life carrying the burden of student loans like we did. Corporate loyalty wasn't going to pay that bill, expertise might. Before I explain what happened over the next 72 hours, let me establish who I am and why that phone call was the most expensive mistake Andrew Phillips ever made. I joined the Marines right out of high school in 1992, spent 8 years in IT security, learned computer systems when they still used punch cards and mainframes. Back then, cybersecurity meant physical locks and clearance badges. I specialized in submarine communications protocols, the kind of classified systems that keep our nuclear fleet connected to command. When I got out in 2000, the internet was exploding, and defense contractors were realizing that their old computer systems weren't going anywhere anytime soon. These legacy systems were built to last decades, not years, and they formed the backbone of military communications. The problem was that most of the people who built them were retiring, taking their institutional knowledge with them. Apex Security hired me in 2002 as a network security engineer specializing in legacy military systems. My job was troubleshooting complex security breaches in systems that younger engineers didn't understand and couldn't fix. When a military installation got hacked and their IT department couldn't trace the intrusion, they called Apex Security. Apex Security sent me. Over 22 years, I'd responded to 186 security emergencies across 12 states and 3 overseas installations. I'd traced advanced persistent threats through systems that most people assumed were unhackable because they were so old. I diagnosed insider attack vectors that exploited vulnerabilities in 15-year-old authentication protocols. I'd identified zero-day vulnerabilities in custom military software that existed nowhere else in the world. More importantly, I'd stopped data exfiltration attempts that could have compromised operational security for thousands of service members. Every crisis I solved meant American military personnel could communicate securely, coordinate missions effectively, and come home safely. That's not just a job, that's a responsibility. I'd worked through hurricanes, holidays, and family emergencies. I missed Tyler's high school graduation to fix a breach at Naval Station Norfolk. I spent my 45th birthday in a server room at Camp Pendleton debugging legacy code while Catherine celebrated alone at home. That was before the cancer diagnosis. Before I learned that loyalty to your employer means nothing when you need time for chemotherapy appointments and hospice care. Catherine died 4 years ago. Tyler's 20 now, junior at Virginia Tech, studying cybersecurity like his old man. He's the only family I have left, and his education isn't negotiable. Catherine used to say, "You're too valuable to let one company control your future." She'd grown up watching her father work 30 years for the same manufacturing company, believing loyalty would guarantee security. When they got bought out, they eliminated his pension and laid him off at 58. "Nobody looks out for you except you, Russell," she'd tell me during those long nights at the hospital. "Build something that's yours, not theirs." Most importantly, I developed deep knowledge of legacy military communication protocols that most of the defense industry still runs on, but nobody teaches anymore. Every installation had unique implementations. Every system had custom modifications made by contractors who'd retired or died years ago. Every security model had quirks that existed only in my experience-based understanding of how those systems behaved under attack. That knowledge was what made me valuable. That knowledge was also what Andrew Phillips had just eliminated from Apex Security's crisis response capability at the worst possible moment. Here's what happened next. The Pentagon crisis had started 31 hours earlier. Fort Gordon, Naval Station, Norfolk, and Camp Pendleton had all reported sophisticated intrusion attempts targeting their communication relay systems within 2 hours of each other. All 3 installations used similar legacy Java architectures that I'd helped design back in 2004. All 3 were experiencing identical attack patterns. This was the kind of coordinated attack that kept defense professionals awake at night. Someone with serious resources and deep technical knowledge was systematically probing the backbone of military communications infrastructure. Not some script kiddie trying to steal personnel files. This was nation-state level sophistication targeting the exact systems I'd spent 2 decades learning to secure. Apex Security's standard protocol was remote diagnostics first. I spent 6 hours on secure video calls with each installation's security teams, walking them through trace procedures and reviewing intrusion logs. By midnight Wednesday, I determined this wasn't something that could be resolved remotely. The attack pattern suggested someone with intimate knowledge of military communication protocols was systematically probing for vulnerabilities in 20-year-old code that most people assumed was too classified to be worth attacking. They were wrong. Old code isn't automatically secure code. It's just code that nobody remembers how to fix when it breaks. I took the metro to Pentagon City Thursday morning, arriving at the secure entrance at 6 a.m. Jennifer Stevens met me at the security checkpoint. She looked like she hadn't slept in 3 days, which she probably hadn't. "Mr. Coleman, thank you for coming. We've been in communications lockdown for 26 hours. CENTCOM is asking why we can't secure our own systems. Because this attack pattern is targeting vulnerabilities that require hands-on system access to properly trace. I need to examine the communication protocols directly." She led me to the secure data center. 4 floors of humming computers, each one processing thousands of military communications per minute when they weren't locked down due to security breaches. All silent now, all offline, all costing the Pentagon approximately $15,000 per hour in operational delays. This was the kind of place that reminded me why I got into this business. These weren't just computers. They were the nervous system of American military operations. Every order, every intelligence report, every personnel communication flowed through systems like these. When they went down, missions got delayed, and people got put at risk. I spent the next 9 hours tracing the attack through system logs, identifying the exact communication routines the hackers were targeting and mapping their intrusion methodology. This wasn't some random cyber vandalism. This was sophisticated, methodical, and expensive. Someone had invested serious money in understanding exactly how these old systems worked and where their weak points were. What I discovered was troubling. The hackers weren't just hitting random military targets. They were specifically targeting installations that still used the legacy communication protocols I'd helped design back in 2004 when Apex Security had won a major military contract. The vulnerability they were exploiting was in custom authentication code that existed in exactly 3 installations worldwide. Code that only 2 people fully understood. Myself and Patrick Sullivan, who is currently in Germany managing a NATO contract. By 6 p.m., I'd moved between all 3 installations, finding identical attack patterns across every compromised system. The hackers had done their homework. They knew exactly which systems to target, which protocols to exploit, and how to avoid detection by standard security monitoring. This wasn't opportunistic hacking. This was surgical. By 10:30 p.m. Thursday, I'd isolated the specific vulnerability. The hackers were exploiting a buffer overflow in legacy Java code that handled encrypted military communications. The vulnerability existed in custom communication software that Apex Security had helped implement in 2004. I was part of the original development team. I was literally one of only 2 people who understood how that communication code worked. It's funny how technology works. We built these systems to last forever, and they did. But forever in computer terms means dealing with problems nobody anticipated 20 years later. The code we wrote in 2004 was rock solid for its time. We never imagined that hackers in 2024 would have the computing power and patience to probe for buffer overflows in Java subroutines that processed maybe 500 communications per day back then, but now handled 50,000. Fixing it required patching 20-year-old Java modules, updating system security protocols, and implementing new input validation routines that would prevent similar attacks without breaking the military's existing communication systems. This wasn't like updating your smartphone. You couldn't just download a patch and restart. Every change had to be tested, validated, and implemented with surgical precision. One mistake and you could freeze military communications for days during active operations. I estimated 14 to 18 hours of careful programming work across all 3 installations. It was the kind of work that required not just technical knowledge but institutional memory. You had to understand not just how the code worked but why it was written that way. What assumptions the original programmers made and how those assumptions had changed over 2 decades. I started at 10:45 p.m. Thursday night. By 1:47 p.m., I was halfway through updating the first set of Java modules when Andrew called and told me I was fired. After Andrew hung up, Jennifer approached me cautiously. You could see the panic starting to set in as she processed what she'd just overheard. In her world, military communications didn't just shut down for maintenance. Every hour these systems stayed down was compromising operational readiness and putting service members at risk. Mr. Coleman, is everything all right? You look concerned. I just got terminated by my employer while in the middle of securing your communication systems. Her expression went from concern to horrified. Terminated, but you're the only person who understands our legacy protocols. What happens to our systems? That's an excellent question. Apex Security will need to send someone else to complete the work. How long will that take? The other engineer who understands these communication protocols is Patrick Sullivan. He's in Germany managing a NATO contract. Apex Security might have to wait until he becomes available. How long? Patrick's European engagement is scheduled for another 12 days plus travel time. Jennifer's face went white. I could see her doing the math in her head. 12 days of military communications downtime, congressional hearings about national security failures, career-ending explanations to CENTCOM about why the Pentagon couldn't secure its own systems. We can't wait 12 days. Every day offline compromises operational communications and mission readiness. 12 days would put active operations at risk. Then I suggest you contact Apex Security Corporate and explain the urgency. At 1:15 a.m., my phone rang again. This time, it was William Foster, Apex Security's Chief Operating Officer. William had been with the company for 16 years and understood exactly how critical my role was to military crisis management. He was also smart enough to realize that Andrew had just made a catastrophic error in judgment. "Russell, I just got off the phone with Andrew. There's been a misunderstanding about your employment status. We need you to complete the Pentagon engagement before we discuss any personnel matters." William Andrew was very clear. He said, "My employment was terminated effective immediately. That's not a misunderstanding, that's termination." I could hear the desperation creeping into his voice. William understood the implications in a way that Andrew obviously didn't. This wasn't just about one disgruntled employee. This was about Apex Security's entire reputation in the military contracting industry. If word got out that they'd fired their senior crisis manager in the middle of a national security emergency, every military contract they had would be in jeopardy. I understand this is confusing, but let's focus on resolving the communications crisis first. We can address your employment situation after you've secured the systems. I don't think that's appropriate. If I'm terminated, I shouldn't be working on Apex security projects. If I'm not terminated, then Andrew needs to call me back and clarify that he made an error. This is a critical national security situation. These communication systems are essential for military operations. We need you to complete the security patches. Then you need to clarify my employment status first. Am I an Apex security employee or not? Long pause. I could hear William thinking through the implications. If he said I was still employed, he'd be contradicting Andrew's termination and creating internal political problems. Andrew's father on the board would want explanations. If he said I was terminated, he'd be admitting that Apex Security had just eliminated their crisis response capability in the middle of their most expensive emergency. "Russell, let me conference in Andrew so we can resolve this together." "I'd rather you didn't." Andrew was clear about his decision. "I'm respecting that decision by no longer working on Apex Security projects. If the Pentagon needs assistance, they should contact Apex Security's emergency response line and request another engineer. There is no other engineer available who understands these legacy military systems. That's an unfortunate situation, but it's not my problem anymore since I'm no longer an Apex Security employee." I ended the call. Jennifer was standing nearby, having heard my side of the conversation. The weight of the situation was settling on her shoulders. At my age, I'd seen this look before. The moment when someone in management realizes they're completely dependent on something they don't understand and can't control. "What should we do, Mr. Coleman?" "You should contact Apex Security and request emergency engineering support. Explain the urgency of the situation. They'll prioritize getting someone here as quickly as possible. But you're here now. You understand our systems. You were in the middle of fixing the vulnerability. Can't you just complete the work?" I thought about that carefully. Back when I was younger, I'd finish the job regardless of company politics because it was the right thing to do. But I'd learned something important over 22 years in corporate America and 8 years in the Marines. Honor has to go both ways. I'd given Apex Security my best years, missed family time, worked through Catherine's illness, and built their reputation one crisis at a time. The moment it became convenient, they threw me away like broken equipment. Tyler's tuition was due in 6 weeks. My mortgage wasn't going to pay itself. Corporate loyalty is a luxury I couldn't afford anymore. I was fired 89 minutes ago. I can't ethically continue working on a project for a company that just terminated my employment. What if we hired you directly? Not through Apex Security, but as an independent consultant working for the Pentagon. Now, that was interesting. I'd never considered going independent. But at 49, maybe it was time to think about options beyond the corporate ladder. Catherine had always said I was too valuable to let one company control my future. She'd grown up watching her father work 35 years for a manufacturing company only to get laid off 8 months before retirement. That would create contractual complications. The Pentagon has security agreements with Apex Security. Those agreements probably have exclusivity provisions preventing you from hiring outside consultants to work on Apex Security design systems. I'll check our contracts. She made several phone calls, had quick conversations that involved a lot of technical terms and urgent whispers, then looked at me with cautious optimism. Our legal team says the security agreement has exclusivity provisions for routine maintenance. But emergency patches can be conducted by any qualified consultant if Apex Security cannot provide timely support. They're defining timely support as within 24 hours of request. That was the opening I needed, not just to solve this immediate crisis, but to test whether there was a future beyond Apex Security. At 49, I was too old to start over at another company, but maybe not too old to start working for myself. Have you formally requested emergency support from Apex Security? She sent an encrypted email to Apex Security's emergency response team, copying me, formally requesting immediate engineering support for the military communications breach and noting that the previous engineer, me, was no longer available to complete the patch work. She marked it urgent and requested response within 6 hours. At 3:45 a.m., we received a response from Apex Security's emergency coordinator that told us everything we needed to know about how this was going to play out. We acknowledge your request for emergency engineering support. Our senior security architects are currently committed to other client emergencies. We are working to identify available resources and will provide an estimated response timeline within 8 hours. 8 hours. In corporate speak, that meant they had no idea how to solve this problem without me, but they weren't ready to admit it yet. William was probably spending his Friday morning calling every contractor and consultant he could find, trying to locate someone who understood military communication protocols well enough to not make the crisis worse. Jennifer showed me the email with the kind of desperate expression you see on people who are watching their career go down in flames through no fault of their own. What does this mean? It means Apex Security doesn't have anyone available to send. Patrick is in Germany, and apparently nobody else at Apex Security has the expertise to handle military communication vulnerabilities. So we wait. Unless you want to exercise your contract provision and hire an independent consultant. Are you available as an independent consultant? This was the moment. At 49, after 22 years of corporate life, I was being offered the chance to work for myself, to set my own rates, choose my own projects, and never again have to worry about some MBA deciding my expertise was too expensive. Catherine had been right. This wasn't a crisis. It was an opportunity I could be. What would your rate structure look like? I thought about that carefully. Independent consulting rates for emergency cybersecurity work typically range from $150 to $150 per hour, depending on expertise level and urgency. I was at the top of the expertise scale, and this was definitely urgent. But more than that, I was the only person available who could solve this problem. That kind of scarcity has value. $155 per hour for emergency security work. Minimum 24-hour engagement to ensure complete vulnerability patching and system validation. That's $4,688 total payment terms, 50% deposit before I resume work, remaining 50% upon successful system restoration. Jennifer didn't even blink. When your military communications are down and you're facing congressional hearings about national security failures, $4,680 for a solution starts looking like a bargain. Done. I'll have our contracting office process the deposit immediately. The contracting process took until Friday evening. Government paperwork, even in emergencies, moves at government speed. But by 6:30 p.m. Friday, my secure phone chimed with a bank transfer notification. $20,340 had just cleared into my personal checking account, more money than I'd ever received for a single day's work in my entire career. At 7 p.m. Friday, I resumed work on the communication security patches, but now I was working for myself. The funny thing about doing the same work as an independent consultant instead of a corporate employee is how different it feels. Every line of code I wrote was billable. Every problem I solved was building my reputation instead of someone else's company. Every decision was mine to make. For the first time in 22 years, I wasn't just fixing someone else's crisis. I was building my own future. Building something for Tyler's education. Building something Catherine would have been proud of. By Saturday afternoon, I'd completed the vulnerability fixes across all 3 military installations. The work went faster than I'd expected because I wasn't dealing with corporate approval processes or having to document every decision for managers who wouldn't understand the technical details anyway. By Saturday evening, I'd updated the security protocols and conducted full system testing. By Sunday morning, all 3 installations were back online with no security vulnerabilities and no communication processing errors. Total lockdown time, 42 hours. Total operational impact, approximately $1.34 million. But the systems were secure and the patches I'd implemented would prevent similar communication-based attacks in the future. More importantly, I'd just proven to myself that I didn't need Apex security. They needed me. Jennifer was watching the communication monitors with visible relief as encrypted traffic began processing normally again. The green lights were beautiful, each one representing thousands of military communications that had been frozen for nearly 2 days, finally flowing through the system like they were supposed to. Mr. Coleman, I cannot thank you enough. You saved us from a disaster that would have been catastrophically worse if we'd waited for Apex Security to send another engineer. You're welcome. I'll prepare a technical report documenting the vulnerability, attack methodology, and patch procedures. You should share that with Apex Security so they can update their security documentation. At 9:30 p.m. Sunday night, I received a call from William Foster. I was back at my house in Falls Church, exhausted, but satisfied with the weekend's work, more than satisfied. I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Pride in work that was entirely mine. Russell, I understand you completed the military security work as an independent consultant. We need to discuss your employment status. Andrew's decision to terminate you was premature. We'd like to offer you reinstatement with full back pay and benefits. I appreciate that, but I'm declining. I'm now operating as an independent consultant. It's more lucrative, and I have better control over which projects I accept. What does that mean for Apex Security? You're our most experienced legacy systems expert. It means Apex Security will need to develop other engineers with similar expertise or accept that your crisis response capability is significantly reduced. Here's what happened next. Over the next 8 weeks, I received 9 emergency calls from military installations and defense contractors experiencing security crises. Each call followed the same pattern: sophisticated attack on legacy systems. Apex Security couldn't respond quickly enough. Could I help as an independent consultant? I helped all 9 clients. Total consulting revenue, $72,000 for 8 weeks of work. That was more than I'd made in the previous 10 months at Apex Security. Word spreads fast in the defense security industry. By October, I was receiving calls from installations that had never worked with Apex Security, asking if I was available for security audits and ongoing vulnerability consulting. These weren't emergency calls. They were military facilities that wanted to prevent emergencies by having someone who understood their legacy systems before problems occurred. By December, I had 6 long-term consulting contracts with defense installations who wanted guaranteed access to my communication expertise when they needed it. Combined retainer revenue, $12,000 monthly, approximately $144,000 annually, plus additional project fees. In January, Apex Security formally offered me a consulting arrangement, $195 per hour for active security work, $2,200 monthly retainer for availability and consultation, 8-month contract renewable at my discretion. I accepted because it was guaranteed revenue, and Apex Security represented one of the most reliable sources of emergency work. Andrew Phillips lasted until February. The board terminated him after they calculated that his decision to fire me during the Pentagon crisis had cost Apex Security approximately $285,000 in lost client contracts, emergency recovery costs, and consulting fees they were now paying me instead of employing me directly. The irony wasn't lost on me. They were now paying me more in 6 months than they'd paid me in 2 years as an employee. Tyler's spring semester tuition was paid in full by January. No loans, no stress, no sleepless nights wondering how we'd manage. When he called to thank me, his voice was different, lighter. Dad, I can actually focus on my studies instead of worrying about money. You gave me something Mom always wanted, the freedom to learn without financial pressure. That's what parents are supposed to do, son. Build something better for their children than what they had themselves. At 49, I thought my career was winding down. Instead, it was just getting started. Getting fired wasn't the end of my career. It was the beginning of my real career. Sometimes the best revenge isn't proving people wrong. It's letting them experience the full cost of being right about what they wanted. Your value isn't determined by what one company is willing to pay you. It's determined by what the market will pay for what you know how to do. The most dangerous employee to fire isn't the one who complains about salary or threatens to quit. It's the one who's literally in the middle of solving a crisis that nobody else knows how to solve when you decide they're expendable.